This has been a milestone week this week, and just celebrating, the completion of the Emerging Prophets Ontario first year. So we launched this Emerging Prophets Ontario school, which was the first Canadian Emerging Prophets school, in January, and we just had our last class on August 8th, so 2 days ago. So I am just like, I am like over the moon excited, and just in this, I feel like a proud mother, like looking at the students who signed up and who stuck with it, and those who've gone through it. And we have, I'm giving them 1 month to wrap up their, book reports and finish things off before we have graduation. But it has just been like so awesome. It's been such an honor. It's been such a privilege to, walk with these incredible students for the last 8 months. And I'm really excited for the new season. It's been, my students who've been in the school have been from all over the place. So from, Bracebridge, Aurelia, all the way out to Kingston, Toronto, and then in the Alliston area. And to see, my biggest joy is to see the fruit in the lives of the students that have come in. And, people have come. I have students that are at various levels of development. Some had already been through my prophetic mentorship group, a few of them, and so we're pretty well practiced in the prophetic, but still, even in that, like just having, getting their gifts and their skills refined, and then really learning more. It's so much more than just learning about the prophetic, but learning about, how to step into their call as a prophet or as a prophetic person, because it is this journey that we all need to go on, from the place of like receiving our calling, receiving the prophetic promises, and then actually stepping into our destiny. And so for the last 8 months, it has been so awesome. I'm really happy and so overjoyed that we've made it through the year. And then, there's just a little bit of a sad, oh, we're done. I can't believe we're here, and so it's with joy, and then, just a little bit of sadness as we end and transition. But, it's all good things, have to either, it's not that it comes to an end, but you move into the next season. And so, as we're wrapping up, I'm just super excited, because what does this mean? Hello, Andrea. It means that, the school's not over, but I'm preparing for the fall semester. And so it's a 9-month school, and we are preparing to launch again. So October, we're going to start our fall session for Emerging Prophets Ontario. And so I'm already accepting applications on my website for new year one students, or for my, year two students, for those who've already gone through. But if you're feeling the call, if you feel the pull, the school is specifically, I often talk about my mentorship program, which is open to anyone in anywhere, any place, but the school is very specific for those who are here in Ontario. And so, you don't necessarily have to be, 100% certain that you're called to the office of the prophet to be part of the Emerging Prophet School, because it's for people at any stage of development and discovery, and just to come in and, to figure out where are they in the journey, and what are the next steps that you need to take forward? What does it mean? What does it mean to be a prophetic person? What does it mean to be called, to the office of the prophet? What does it mean to be a trusted prophetic voice? And this is something just really beautiful that God is doing in the earth, and something that is really beautiful and is blossoming here in Canada, where it's the prophetic has been so kind of undercover and kept down for so long, but there is just this new breath on it, and there's this new wind, and there's such a needfulness for us to rise up as sons and daughters, knowing first and foremost who we are as children of God. And then as we get so settled in our identity as what does it mean to be a beloved son or daughter, and as we get so settled in who we are, then we can realize the greatness that God has put on the inside of us as his children, and so that we can step out, and that we can really come into the fullness So I want to say hello to Ankia and Sherry as well. Good to see you, ladies. And so there's so much on the inside of us. And, the prophetic is, I always say this, the prophetic is an invitation. When you get prophetic words, we don't want to just assume that, we can sit back and let God let God do the work. Some people have that attitude where it's just like, well, if God wants it, if God wants it to happen, he'll make it happen. And you know what? I won't say some people, there's probably areas of our life that each and every one of us could probably put our finger on, and we could say like, you know what? That there's an area even in my life that I can think of where I was like, you know what? I need to be much more intentional about like, partnering in faith and praying into that, and so there's these things that, and sometimes it is like we just get a little bit disheartened, because sometimes people have prophetic words and promises and things, that are spoken over their life, but they don't understand the way forward. They don't understand like, well, what's the next step that I take? And, how do I even, sometimes the prophetic, it seems so like way out here and so impossible. And it's like, well, what are the steps that I take to start moving towards it? And sometimes, if you're not even in a place where there's a prophetic church or an embracing of prophecy in general, like you're just going to feel so lost, but I love this, that, as awesome and amazing and important as the local church is, I love that God is doing things in, prophetic hubs, prophetic and apostolic hubs, even, not in competition with the local church, but to complement and to actually strengthen and to bring like our kingdom experience, our Christian experience into like just a fuller expression and a fuller measure, like so that we are, people are called, not everybody in your local church is going to be called to the exact same thing. And, you might have a beautiful local church that has a certain vision and a certain mission, but then you have a specific call on your life. And not that it's in contrast to the vision or mission, but maybe, it's just a little bit more niche down and it's a little bit more specific than like the broader overall vision for, what God is doing through your church and in the region, and so, for some of you, I'm more talking for you guys out there, just to kind of evaluate like where you're at, and so when we are not getting trained up specifically in our call and gifting, we need to be so hungry that we don't just like sit back and be like, well, the pastor's not doing it, or, well, that's not the focus. Maybe you need to get trained up in the prophetic, but really what you're, maybe your pastor is in a season where God is telling them to really push for evangelism, or maybe really to push, teaching on deliverance, or really to do a different kind of discipleship. But when you have on the inside, like, what is God speaking to you? What gifts has he put inside of you, and how can you specifically be intentional to line yourself up and to go after it? Because we have to go after the things of the kingdom. And so I love, just wrapping up the school this year, and, some of my students, it'll be saying goodbye for, just for a season. Some of them will be continuing on into year 2. And then there's also embracing new students to come in. But it's like, it's such a privilege, when you find your people that you are called to walk with. And this is the thing, like, God is it says in the Bible, like, it is not good for man to be alone. And that's not just talking about men. It's not just talking about marriage. It's talking about humanity. God did not create us to live in isolation and to live in silos. And so for us to experience the fullness of what God has, we need to find our tribe, our company, our community. I've heard it said that when you find your people, you will find your purpose. So if you haven't found your purpose yet, it could very well just be that you haven't found your people. And so some of you are hungry and you're thirsting, you're looking like, where are the people that God has for me? And so, your people might be in a prophetic mentorship program. Your people might be, I know most of you watching right now are not in Ontario, but some Ontarians will watch the replay, so right in this season, I'm called to, to plant locally here in Ontario and to raise up groups and companies, where we can, as amazing as online is, it's so great to be able to come together in person to fellowship together, to worship together, to learn together, grow together, eat together, and it's just such a privilege when you find your people. And, it's because it's when you find your people and you find the ones that God has called you to link arms with that you can take your mountain. Because this is not a season of going at it alone. This is a season of taking the mountain in community. Just want to say hello to Ella Weber, Sherry Normore, Susan Friesen. Hello, good to see you ladies. And so who are you ascending the mountain with? There is the place of ascension in the place of intimacy where we go after God, in the quiet place and we pursue him, and there is a time and a place for that. We need to be really intentional about our growth and about growing in intimacy. But even more than that, it's not just about, it's not just the prophetic and being a prophet. It's not just about you and God, though that is primary, but it is about the outflow. So who are your people? Who are you connecting with? Hello, Will Noodle, my other fellow Emerging Prophet School director. Will's in Oregon, and he teaches the school out there. And hello, Jen Viz and Mickey from Australia. Hello, yes, Will, who are we ascending and going up the mountain with? So Will and I both had the privilege of running schools this year. We both launched schools this past year, and so this is like groundbreaking, territory taking, and finding our people, because we, as great as Will and I are, and as passionate as we are for God, we know that we need people in our life and we were not meant to go it alone. And so we are looking, and looking for the people, like who is hungry, who is wanting to take their mountain. One of the things about running the school this past year, there's 6 week modules. It's a 9-month school. Yeah. Who wants to run with us, Will? Who wants to run with us? And in the, there's 6 different modules where we learn different aspects of the prophetic. But one of my favorite parts was module 5, which has to do with the voice and releasing the voice of the prophet. And you know what? I think the reason I just was so excited in that module, because it's really, it's not about me releasing my voice. It's not about me as the leader or teacher prophesying, but it's about the students, and it's about helping them to discover what's on the inside of them and them releasing their voice and their unique message and their unique style and finding their unique way of prophesying and discovering like who God has created them to be. Emerging Prophets is not about, it's not about making, cookie cutter, prophets. We're not all supposed to look like, the founder, Keith Fronte. My students aren't all supposed to look like me. Will's students are not all supposed to look like him. We want you to discover who you are and embrace how God has wired you, because there is a unique flavor and an expression of the prophetic that only you can carry, and so it took me so long to find my voice. And some of you guys can relate to this. Like, some of you guys will, you'll either be, we tend to live in the extremes sometimes. Some people are really well balanced, but there's the over talkers and then there's the under talkers, and so maybe you found that in your life or seasons of your life, you've kind of leaned in one direction or the other. And, for me, I was a loud kid. I was like loud early on in age, my early years. And I mean, my parents had 10 children. So, when you got a bunch of kids and one is like really loud, I remember like always being, just always hearing like, you're so loud, like you talk so much, you're so loud, be quiet, and I actually so I went from an extreme of being like, just naturally loud and talkative to like actually kind of shutting down. And like, thinking that, okay, like that, cause I was too extreme and too loud and was kind of like too much. Has anybody out there felt like you were too much, and feeling like I was too much, and then you overcompensate cause you try and fix yourself. And then so kind of like shutting down a little bit, but then becoming too quiet and too shy and keeping to myself, and, not really understanding my value, not really understanding that there was, that there was value in what, who I was, but also what I had to release and what I had to add to like conversations and interactions. So I went into like, a season, I went into years, like throughout my teenage years and even into my 20s of just being so like, dysfunctional and insecure, and really partnering with a spirit of silence, and so I had really partnered with silence so much that like I went through 4 years of university. Like I got my psychology degree at U of T, and I went through 4 years of university, and I never spoke in class. Like I never put my hand up. I never participated. I had just so shut down. And and there were some things that had happened in high school, things where I remember one time a teacher like really embarrassed me in front of the class, and when I had stepped out, and I remember just making that internal vow, like, well, I will never give someone an opportunity to embarrass me, and so the reason I share this is just so you understand, even though I might seem really bold and courageous to you guys, because I'm going after it, and I'm, always doing these Facebook lives, and I'm like, serving with the prophetic. And I know there is a boldness, but I wasn't always like this, and I had to break free. I had to get set free from some of the bondages. I had to get set free from some of my inner vows and the things that I had, the things that I was believing about myself, things that I took on, and things that people didn't necessarily want to put on me. But, when you're growing and developing, it's like the enemy can just twist one interaction and can take some word that was spoken, something, and can turn it into a traumatic kind of event that actually changes, the way that you start responding. And so, we need to embrace this like process of healing. And Emerging Prophets is all about get healthy so you can get heard. We need to get healthy so we can get heard. And, I'm not here saying I've arrived by any means, but I've been in a journey for years of health. And, it's like going after it and going deeper and deeper, and having the humility to realize that we have not arrived yet. And we need to continually be bringing ourselves humbly before the Lord, allowing Him to like reveal the things in us that need to be worked on, putting ourselves in community, because guys, we all have blind spots. I have blind spots, and it's not to say like, it's not, when someone points out your blind spot or brings correction, it's not to like bring shame or condemnation, but it's actually, to help you to like become better, to help you develop. And so there's this needfulness for like teachability and for really going after health, because, God loves us just as we are, but we've heard that said, like He loves us as we are, but He loves us too much to leave us where we're at, and so we need to embrace this process of healing and getting healthy, because don't you think the world deserves a healthy expression of the prophetic? Now I know I'm going to speak for Canada because this is where I'm at. I'm in Canada. I've gotten a bit of a feel for the Canadian, prophetic experience, and just even from some mentors that I've had, here in Canada, just kind of understanding, okay, what's the tall poppy syndrome about? What is this? What are some of the issues in the prophetic that the, Canadian prophets or emerging prophets like myself are facing, so you get a bit of a sense of that, And so we can say like, oh, well, how terrible, how dare, the church shut down the prophetic, and how come we're, such in the state, and we can kind of get that like victim mentality where it's like, give me a space. I need to have my voice, or we could, take the more mature response and be like, okay, well, what's the other side of the coin? Rather than just focusing on like the institutionalization and religion, like spirit of religion in the nation, you can say like, well, what was happening in the prophetic that, caused the church and church leaders to feel that, it was a better alternative to actually shut down the prophetic, and so we need to look at it that way. So not just come at it from like a victim perspective, but say, okay, what was there, Was there a reason? Was there reasons why the prophetic wasn't received? And you know what? I will submit, like, I think that there has been a really immature expression of the prophetic, and there's been such a mixture. It hasn't been the pure and true new covenant type of prophecy. And, and because, what happens when the prophetic is, the prophetic, prophetic people will often have histories of like, rejection or abandonment, or, so you feel rejected and then you kind of run off and, you say, well, they're rejecting me, so I'm going to do it on my own, and it gets into this like orphan, way of thinking and acting. And so you get into this like unhealthy tug of war, but the reality is lots of prophets and prophetic people made messes. And there's lots of messes, and we will all make messes, but the needful thing is we have to have the humility to be able to clean up our messes and to be able to say that we're sorry. If we get it wrong, or if we have, if we get it wrong, if we give a wrong word, if we speak out of a wrong spirit, if, we speak out of, sometimes people prophesy out of their pain, and we have to have this humility. Or if, sometimes we will make there's the mistake that is made often of like, people sometimes they mistaken their discernment and what they can read on people is actually prophecy, which isn't the same, because discernment is about like what you're seeing of their present condition, and prophecy is like Revelation 19:10, like the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So the prophecy is like the true testimony of like, what is Jesus saying about this person? When you look at this person through the lens of the finished work of the cross, what is the testimony of Jesus about this person? Rather than being, a prophetic person that, because we can see and discern and understand and sometimes read people's thoughts, who sometimes will take that and will expose and will reveal and will prophesy in a way that makes people feel uncovered or ashamed, and so this is why there has been so much mixture. There's been, and then just people who are, are not healthy. If you're not healthy, if there's areas, and don't hear what I'm saying. Like, don't take this word, unhealthy, because it sounds so condemning. Like if someone comes up to you and is like, you're unhealthy, like how yucky does that sound? Like, it just feels like, oh my goodness, they're judging me. They're like, but if you were to go up to someone who has cancer and you're just like, oh, like, yeah, and they're in the hospital, and it's like, yeah, there's unhealth, like you're unhealthy, and in that case, you don't look at it as like, oh, you're horrible. Like you're flawed because of some like personal shortcomings, but it's like, okay, you realize that there is a state, that there is a state that the person who is sick and has cancer, there's a state that they're in because of whatever conditions they have been exposed to, or whatever's been going on in their body, whatever, sometimes this is about toxins and things in their environment, or even, I do think there is sometimes a internal, spiritual component as well. But it's like, we don't look at it with like judgment, but we look at it like, how can we help this person? Like, we acknowledge the state, but we don't want to leave you in that state. And so it's like, what can we do? How can we care for you? How can we love you? How can we, meet you where you're at and help you to take the next steps forward? And so it needs to be with spiritual and emotional health and unhealth. It's not like to look at people and be like, wow, you're disqualified because you're unhealthy. You're not measuring up. It's like, hey, you know what? Maybe there's been some trauma, in your life. Maybe there's been some hurts. Maybe there's been some rejection. Maybe you grew up with a single parent, or maybe you were adopted. Maybe there's just some things. Maybe there was some abuse in your childhood, or maybe you have some kind of like physical issue in your body, or some kind of mental, challenge, or intellectual challenges that you're dealing with, and these kind of things, like, they're not your fault. But it's like, we want to have so much grace where we can meet people where they're at and say like, okay, I see you, and if someone does have pain and does have trauma and does, if we look at people instead of, with this openness, when we see people's behaviors, and we see, people who are acting in ways that are less than kind, or less than, You can tell when someone is kind of having, what do you say, like a level 10 response to a level 3 offense, because sometimes it's like, anyone get cut off in traffic? Hopefully, if you get caught off in traffic, you're not the person who, even though it's, maybe a level 2 offense, shoot, that person didn't check before changing lanes. Hopefully you're not the one who is raging and screaming and having that level 10, offense because, someone accidentally cut you off. But we've all seen people who are like that, where it's like, you can see like, okay, wow, that was not really a big deal. But what do we want to do? It's like, to have an understanding, to realize like, okay, what has gone on in that person's life? How can we help them? And how can we get them into a place of making better choices, getting healed, having better responses, so it's all about health. It's all about health, and the prophetic needs. I'm going on a tangent here. I'm realizing it. This is not where I was going to go. But it's like, we need to get healthy. The prophetic needs to get healthy, and so it's like, it's not this standard. It's not like, we don't want people to think like, hey, you gotta be perfect before you can minister to people. You gotta be perfect before you can prophesy. You gotta, reach a certain, level before, you have any worth or value in the kingdom. No. When I have people come into my prophetic mentorship group, I want them to know that like, this is a safe place and there is so much grace. And you know what? I'm not looking for perfection, but I just want you to be brave and open up and like release what's on the inside of you, because it is only in the like opening up of ourselves and releasing, and letting, but not being so like performance driven. Like, I was so performance driven and so afraid of getting things wrong that I would just keep quiet. Like I didn't want to step out. I didn't want to prophesy. I didn't, I was just too afraid of like, what if I get it wrong? I didn't understand how, like, I didn't understand my gift and I hadn't been trained in it. The way I'm starting to get a little more comfortable here. The way I got trained, was really just in my previous church. My pastor there, Pastor Zach, he was a prophet. And his wife is highly prophetic as well. And so they just saw what was in me and pushed me to like step out and release, even though I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel comfortable, but it was just that they're like real, like, equippers, and just like, really see where people, are supposed to go and push them forward. And so I was so nervous. Like, I was just so nervous to step out. And I remember one day Pastor Zach just saying to me, like, Jenny, you don't get the credit when you prophesy over someone and you give them a good word. Like, you don't get the credit because, God gives you the revelation. You're just the messenger. You don't get the credit. So that keeps us humble. And then he said to me, as a learning, new, just stepping out into the prophetic. So I'm not talking about where I am now as an emerging prophet, but he just said, don't take the credit when you get it wrong. And so what that was about, I'm not giving an anti-accountability message, because if I get it wrong and I release a word over anyone on here, you can send me a message and, we can chat about that. And I really believe in accountability. But as far as learning and growing and developing, we all need a safe space. Do you have a safe space where you are able to grow, where you are able to say like, okay, this is what's inside of me. This is how I prophesy. And then like have people who are going to be able to speak into you, coach you, love you, and help to tweak and refine you. Do you have that? And so that's something I do in my mentorship group, but that's also something that is available in the Emerging Prophets world, and so as part of the Emerging Prophets Ontario School, and so how do you have your people? Going back to my, I started talking about module 5 and the releasing of the voice of the prophetic, and how I just so loved this module because, I shared my story about like, how I went, from being shut down, and I had to find my voice again. I had to get free from the stronghold of silence before I could step out and really step into who God has called me to be. And don't you just love it? Like, not love it, hate it. Like how the very thing that God gives you, that is your gift and is your, what you're supposed to use to impact the world, that is the very thing that the enemy is going to try to come against. And so for me, it was my voice. And so I was shut down for a long time, but I have found my voice, quite obviously, and I'm helping other people to find their voices as well, and so for me to see my students who've gone through the EP Ontario school, in that module 5, stepping out, like not just prophesying, but prophesying, sharing their life messages, doing teaching, and being able to step up and no longer just being like, a passive, church attender who is just, always just there to receive, but stepping into a place of actually releasing what God has put on the inside. It's like people come alive. And so for me to see my students come alive and have a place of release and find their voice and place of impact is just so beautiful and so powerful. And it's been such an honor. And so I am excited to welcome in another round of students for our fall session. So we're starting in October. And so classes are going to start in October. But if you decide, hey, I want to jump in this year, I want to be part of the school. Some of you guys, I know you're sitting back, I know some of you guys were thinking about it when I launched the first year, but some people wanted to just sit back and just watch me. Sit back and just see, how's Jenny going to do? Just sit back, see, is this ship going to, is it going to sink or is it going to float, And so some of you guys were just, wanted to see. It takes a certain kind of brave, person and level of trust to jump in and to, jump into that pioneering. But you know what? We've broken through. We've carved out a trail. We're ready for round 2. First year was incredible, but now we're ready for year 2 students. So we're starting in October. But, you don't have to wait until October to apply. You can go to emergingprophetsontario.com to apply. And if you sign up sooner, I can get you access to the Emerging Prophets Masterclass earlier than October. Like as soon as you sign up and make a payment, I can get you, access into the Emerging Prophets. So it's a 9-month school, but you get 12 months access to the Global Emerging Prophets Masterclass. So we meet... the Ontario school, we meet, to be in the school, you need to be within driving distance of Alliston, because we have weekly Zoom meetings, but we also have every module we meet in person, like monthly at my house here in Alliston. We do it on a Saturday, so that we can have a time of like doing prophetic acts, worship, teaching, impartation, fellowshipping, eating, all these things together in person, because this is about gathering local prophetic companies, and so consider it, jump in. We would love to have you. And, so 9-month school, the portion that I teach, which is the mandatory portion, is 9 months long, but then there's also 12-month access to the Global Emerging Prophets world, which where you have access to, we have weekly Zoom teachings. We have weekly prophetic gift training classes. We have all kinds of things going on, and it's just so many like incredible people who you have access to, leaders and mentors. And so why not? Yeah, well, why not join now? Just reading your comment. Why not join now? Why delay? Why put it off? And if you're wanting to join us in October, jump in now. You can get a feel of the masterclass. You can start, learning about the EP DNA and, what we stand for, some of the pillars, because it's all about health, and so just want to invite you guys to come on in. All right. I'm going to do a little transition. I'm going to do a little prophetic ministry for some of you guys. So can you just drop me a comment or an emoji if you're on here and you haven't commented for a little while. Hello, Andreas. Good to see you. Who else? Christina Elliott, Jewel Clark, April Lynn. Hello. Joanna Tolley from Texas. So good to see all you guys. So good to see you. Gloria Narija from Puerto Rico. So good. I love this. We've had, well, Andreas, you're in Reading, but I think, are you from Sweden? Are you from Sweden? You're from Europe. And we got Ankia from South Africa. We've got April Lynn from Muskoka. Joanna's from Texas. Sherry Gaither, can't remember where you're from. It's left me. Elizabeth Tozer, she's one of my EP Ontario students from Kingston, Ontario. She drove 4 hours to be part of this school. 4 hours each way. That is commitment, and it's been really awesome to have her as part of the school and to see her growth. It's been, okay, Sherry's in California. Okay, California. California is a big state. Lots of awesome people there in California. All right, is it just you guys, or are you guys getting hot? Because I'm getting really hot in here, and I don't think it's my lack of air conditioning today. It's only about 20 degrees outside. All right. Holy Spirit, who are you highlighting? Yeah. April Lynn. April. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, April, I can just see you in the place of, you're just really in a place of, I see you tidying some things up and just putting some kind of finishing touches on, some things of the last season. And I just see some, putting some things to closure and being, preparing yourself to that place of stepping into the new. And it's I see that there's been some things that you've had to really, it's I see you putting out some fires and maybe cleaning up some messes that were actually not your messes necessarily to clean up. But it's I see that there was such a grace for you in this last season just to navigate some of the, just some of the challenges and some of the, some challenges and tensions and maybe even some I see some even relational disconnections and things that happened. And I just saw you really, really fighting for unity and really fighting for restoration. It's you really have that heart, to be that minister of reconciliation. And so, I just, there's been a lot of things and I can see, it's I can see tears of frustration. I can see tears of relief, but I just really just feel this, the Lord, just to affirm to you, the Lord is giving you so much strength and so much grace. And I just see, that you have been able to navigate some tricky places and you have been able to it's I see you, being able to navigate with such a wisdom and that you really were able to kind of, it's you had wisdom and discernment, and I saw you stepping away from some landmines, so to speak. There were some things that it was almost were kind of set up, where circumstances were set up, and it was that sense of one wrong move and it just is all gonna blow. But I just see there was just so much grace and wisdom for you, and it's you navigated these situations, and I just feel there's, the Bible talks about us being the salt of the earth and just that preservative. And I just see that your life is one, and the way that you're living and walking is it's preserving, but it's not just for you, but it's there is a level of preservation that other people are experiencing and benefiting from because, you have been you've been growing in sensitivity to Holy Spirit and have positioned yourself in a way to hear and to really seek His wisdom. And I just really see this trusting your gut and this your gut as in your spirit. And I just see you really learning to trust yourself, as you have been getting more grounded and finding more and more about your freedom in Christ. I just see this you've been coming alive, and there's just been a real increase of spiritual growth for you. And so I just bless you. I just bless you. You have the wisdom, you have the understanding, just continue to trust your discernment. And I just see God is just going to continue, it's this He'll say step to the right or step to the left, sometimes take a step forward, sometimes takes two steps backwards, and sometimes it just does not make sense to our natural reasoning and understanding. But because you're listening, it's like really going to help you. You know, the way forward is not always fast and furious. The way forward is in intimacy and listening to hear what he has to say. Will Noodle, I'm going to prophesy over you, Will. I don't know if I've ever prophesied over you. And if I haven't, that's a shame because you're amazing. And yeah, Will's a bit of a spiritual papa in the emerging prophets world. But Will, yeah. Wow. You know, I just released that over you, Will. Like, you are a father of many. You are a father of many. And Will, the level, it's like the level of overflow that is coming out of your life, it is like God has so massively increased your capacity in this season, and especially like in these last 2 years. It is like, you know, in these last 2 years, your capacity has just like massively expanded and grown. And it's like, as God has been removing some things, like, you know, even in these kind of like semi-retirement years, and it's like, as he's moved out some of the things and shifted your seasons, removed some of the busyness, it's like, it's like, you know, sometimes people think they get smaller, like when they move out and they retire, but it's like, I just see like, it's like this constant expansion. And it's almost like, you're just living out of the overflow. And because you are so filled, and you have learned to position yourself in this way that it's like, there is no depletion. Like, there's no depletion. It's like the hose is just permanently turned on. And I just see like so many people that you aren't even directly trying to impact are just getting so blessed and just sloshed by the overflow of what is coming out of you. And I just actually see, you know, it's like I can see people coming to you who are kind of like in these states of like panic or crisis, people who just feel like almost like the sense of like, oh no, all is lost. Oh no. And it's like, I can feel the panic of, you know, people who just feel like, you know, they made a wrong move or they stepped off, and it's like, oh no, what is going to happen to me now? And in this, and it's like, I can feel the emotion of it. Like these people who are just like, they feel like they've come to the end of themselves. And it's like, God puts you in their path, and you are just such a beautiful representation of Jesus. And it's like when people encounter you in the natural, they encounter Jesus in the spiritual. And it's just like, you have this restorative nature and this ability to it's like you just put your arms around people in the spirit, and the message that you carry, the anointing that you carry, it just releases this sense of like everything is going to be okay. And it's like, I see this like, it's like people are getting, it's like when they encounter you, it's like the electricity from heaven that is flowing through you with such force and power. It actually brings areas of themselves, like spiritually, like electrical imbalances, whether it's in the mind or in the rhythm of the heart. And I just see like things coming like into balance, like them. I'm actually seeing like even them like being like electrocuted in the spirit, but like in a good way, because it is like the power of God, in the lightning of God. You have so encountered him, and it's flowing through you. And I just see it's this beautiful ministry of reconciliation, but so it is a reconciliation to the Father, but you're like, it's like you are like the Father who is standing with eyes open, looking for the prodigals, but they're not even your own prodigals. They're not even your own necessarily, but you have the eyes of love looking out. And it's like, because oh man, Will, This is wrecking me. This is wrecking me. Like, it's like everybody, it's like all these orphan sons and daughters are out there and they're looking and they're prodigals, but they're prodigals. Some of them were abandoned. Some of them were pushed out and they didn't even all choose it that way. But it's like all of these prodigals that are wanting to come and are wanting to know the love of a father that they have never experienced. And it's like they never had a father, but it's like, I can see you, Will. I can see you. And it's like you're like the father who is looking out and you're ready to embrace and to bring them in. And they're not even your own children, and there's no reason that you should even naturally have love and affection for them, but you just have so much of God inside of you that people are encountering you and they're just coming in because you don't even have to preach the gospel. You don't even have to say anything because they just encounter the love of Jesus and they're just so drawn in and brought in. And so I just bless you. I just see you having such impact with so many people of different ages and races and cultures and genders, and like, you know, what God is going to give you is just going to span all generations. And it's, you know, it's like you have an ability to like speak with honor and to honor, you know, even the elderly and those, you know, like in their more senior years, even where, you know, even where they've lost some of their faculties. It's like I see you being able to like really honor those, but then even being able to stoop down and to be able to speak and minister and to bring in even the youngest and smallest child. So it's like you just have this ability to reach all, and it's God is giving you this incredible gift of like individuation. It's like, you know, in the spirit, like you don't treat everybody the same, because it's like, it's just like, you know how to speak everybody's love language. They don't have to tell you. It's like you just have such a spiritual intelligence, and you just know because you see the Father and you do as he does. You hear the Father, you do as he says. And it's just, it's so powerful because you can individually, you know, touch the hearts in different ways of anybody who comes to you. Yeah, it's so good. So good. So good. Wow. Oh, so good. It's so good. You're just a carrier of hope, and you're releasing hope to the hopeless. People are coming and they're so desperate and so lacking of hope, and you're just releasing hope. Hope is the gift that you give. It is like the breath that you breathe, and you are spiritually resuscitating people with the hope that you carry. Yeah. Whew. Yeah. So powerful. So powerful. So if anybody is watching this and they're in Oregon, join Will's school. He's got a Emerging Prophets school in Gold Beach, Oregon. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So good. Love you, Will. Love you so much. Yeah. And if you want to know who Will is, check out my website, because his picture is there on the main page with me, Emerging Prophets Ontario. Yeah. Will and his wife are just amazing, amazing. You know, I want to see if I can make a trip to Oregon out there in sometime in this next year. Would be awesome if Holy Spirit opens that door. All right. Who else do we hear? Come, the doors are open. Yes. Yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, Bren Cressman. I don't know if you've been on here before. Where are you from? Are you a local? Yeah, Bren. Wow, Bren, I just see, I see such a sweetness. Okay, you're in Ontario. Bren, I see a sweetness. I see a real sweetness, but I also see a sharpness in the spirit. And, and I think, I think that people would be best not to underestimate you. And, and I think that there have been times where you have been actually very underestimated, but you're there's so much more. There's so much more than meets the eye. And I see in so many ways you're kind of like I just see you like being able to move undercover and being able to step in and, kind of like like God being able to send you into places and interactions and actually, being able to step in and to deliver and fulfill assignments that God gives you where people are very like unsuspecting. And I just see like God giving you favor and, favor through relational equity because you are a very safe person and, you're safe and you're loyal. And I just see like people really trusting you and then letting you in and letting you close. And I just see people like really opening up to you. And, but I see you with like the word, like the sword of the word, like a surgeon's scalpel in your hand. And so that's the sharpness in the spirit. There's a gentleness, but there's also a sharpness. And so it's like God can allow you to go into places and to cut out things because you won't be careless with what God gives you. You won't be careless with the revelation because you really are a lover of the people. And it is just such a, like a vow of your heart not to cause harm. It's like I can think of just thinking of the prayer of Jabez. I don't know if that's one that you've ever prayed over yourself, but it's almost like I can hear you like praying that over yourself. Like, that the Lord would, I might misquote this, but like that the Lord would bless me, that he would enlarge my territory and that I would not cause pain, and so it's like, I really just see that like you have this like, this real just internal desire to like only do good and to not cause pain, and so sometimes when we don't want to cause pain, it's like because there's harm and damage, but then there's sometimes hurt that's needful. So it's kind of like, I've had a couple, a certain friend who, recently corrected me. She's like, hey, Jenny, don't say it like that. Don't speak like that, because it comes across, a certain way, or, you need to approach it, where she brings that correction that it's a little sharp. It's like, oh, like, that, I felt that, but it's so needful. And so I actually see, I just feel like the Lord wants to release you to be able to, to allow that sharpness that you have in the spirit to come through, because you are going to help people to, it's like you're not cutting off that which is good. You are just like a surgeon with a scalpel, and you're just removing the little bits of sickness, the little bits of like diseased flesh. And it's like, and it's not to destroy, but you really have that heart. Like the prophetic is all about encouragement, comfort. It's about the building of people, and that's your heart. You want to build people, but you don't want to like leave the disease portion. So I just see, I see you just being a really safe person and being able, people giving you access to their hearts and their things and their stuff, and people being really open because it's like you can see people's pain and shame and mistakes and the things that they've gone through and even their regrets, but you don't compound like shame or anything like that on that. It's like they can be just like open with you, and you're just so safe, and you really protect people's vulnerabilities. So Bren, I just bless you. I just bless you to just continue being who you are, continue to discover the fullness of what God has put on the inside of you, because you are powerful. You are powerful, and people may have underestimated you, but God is not underestimating you. And he's actually raising your own estimation of yourself in this season. Hello, Kayla Lopez. Good to see you. Millie Hale. Hello. Okay, Jen Viz, you're next. Jen. Wow. It's like I feel like you spent this last year, it's like you've just postured yourself in this way, Jen, to just like, it's like just to gaze in the face of Jesus. And it's like, I just see the cry of your heart. It's just like, God, I want to see you. I want to behold your beauty, and just really, you've just been in this place of just like, you've been looking so intently at Jesus. You've been You know, it's like you've tasted, it's like you've tasted a little and it's whet your appetite, and it like created this insatiable appetite on the inside of you for that next level, for the more that you know is available. And so it's like you've just been in this like place of like really, it's just, God, I want you. God, I just want you. I just want you. I just want to know you, and I want to see you, and I want to behold you. And I just see it's like, and it's like this hunger that is just growing and growing and growing on the inside of you, because the more you behold him, the more you see him, the more you taste of him, it's just like making you, it's making you more hungry. And even though it's like he is all that you want and need, it's almost like you have also this insatiable appetite, and there's a sense of like a dissatisfaction, like a holy dissatisfaction that just won't let you stop. And it's like I see you as you're in this place, and it's like as you're looking to him, it talks about like we behold him as in a mirror face to face, and we're being transformed into his image from glory to glory. And it's like you've been gazing at him so long, and you've been getting more glorious, and you've been reflecting him, you know, in greater measure. And it's like you can't necessarily see it. It's, you know, because we see ourselves every day, and so we don't always see the micro changes that happen as we're in that, you know, as we place ourselves in that position. But it's like people are seeing, and Jen, the light has just been getting brighter and brighter. And it's just even like Moses, where he spent the time in the Lord's presence, and then when he came out, he had to put the veil over his face because, you know, the glory was so great. And so you don't have to put a veil over your face, but it's like there is just this new reflection of God that is being seen in you, because what you think of him and what you know of him as you've been looking at him, it's like I see like it's like layers of like scales like falling from your eyes, and levels of just like religious training and tradition and things falling away, and just like this revelation of the goodness of God has taken root, and it's been going so deep down on the inside, and it's been pushing out. It's like it's like I can even feel the discomfort of that like cognitive dissonance in this last year or two, where it's like, you know, where it's like the discomfort of like these new revelations coming in, and then pushing out the old, and pushing out the things that we already thought we had settled, the theology, the way of like looking at things. And it's like I just see this new revelation. It's like it's causing, you know, these things to pop out and to be removed, and it's really just purified on such a deep level some of, you know, your perceptions of God, because like as you see him and behold him, that is how you are reflecting him. And so it's all been a glorious process of purification that he's had you in, and you know, and you've been in it, and he's been doing it because of your hunger and your posturing and your humility, where you've just like, God, I have to have you. God, I have to have more. I know that there's more of this. And you've just been going after it. So I just bless you to just keep coming, and to keep communing, and to eat his body, and to drink his blood, and to fully understand who he is, and just to continue to be consumed, because you, like as Jesus is, so are you in this world. And God is showing you more and more what that means and what that revelation is. How can you be like Jesus? But you are like Jesus, because he is the firstborn of a new creation. And so yeah, it's the new creation that is just like bursting out, and God is going to use you in some really powerful ways. And I just really hear that this is a year that like no more smallness, no more smallness. There's some big things, there's some risky things, there's some areas of stepping out that are not familiar, but God wants to advance you, and he wants to accelerate you into some new areas and territories. So, you know, you already said yes to him, even though you didn't know what you were saying yes to, but he's already got your yes, and he's going to hold you at your word. So anyway, I bless you. Bless you, bless you, bless you. All right. All right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, but I will be back. And if you are in Ontario, please check out emergingprophetsontario.com and consider whether you would like to join the fall session of the Emerging Prophets class. If you have any questions, you want to even chat with me about it, I would love to connect with you, give you more information. And it's been really just been so amazing, running through this first year of school, and we're ready for year 2. And it's going to be awesome. Year 1 was awesome. Year 2 is going to be even more awesome. So love you guys, really appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in, and have a blessed night.